All right, we are back. Welcome to the DLLS Stars. And yes, like I said yesterday and the day before, they are still trusting me and Luds to do this without our host, Owen Newkirk. But we are here, Craig Ludwig, Sam Nessler. We have plenty to talk about today. Luds, let's start how we've been starting the other days. What do you got going on? What are you getting up to up there in Wisconsin?
I was actually cutting the grass again today, Sam, but I made sure I had my phone with me this time in case there was a change of schedule like you guys did to me last time, but I got off and no problem. So I'm trying to get everything ready. I cleaned it up in here a little bit. I got a buddy and his wife coming into tomorrow from Dallas. And so we have a big country fest going on here. It's called the Hodag. And so it starts, all the campers are already out there. There's about probably 30,000 people out in the woods.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a big thing around here for a long time. So anyway, that starts tomorrow, and it actually starts tonight. It starts tonight and then ends up Sunday night. So,
you a country guy?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
So we'll. So what time is the show again on Monday?
I have no idea. I'm just trying to get through today, get on a plane, and figure it out.
I'll try to get there by Monday. Friday is going to be Friday will be a bit shaky. Friday will be. I think we're going to see if this thing works from a boat.
So London's going to be on a boat. Tomorrow I'm at a concert all day long. So Friday will be a recovery day for me, a rare recovery day for me as well. We will have Owen will be back, I think, tomorrow with you and I think Sean. So you guys are getting it all. You're getting random people thrown at you. You're getting shin pads.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're getting me every day. I don't get a day off. These guys they're
showing up. You missed the day when you decided to cut the grass and forget the time. So
yeah, well, I didn't know we were going to go 3 hours earlier. So I was all ready to go by noon, and then I missed it. So,
yeah.
What do we got today?
Yeah, we're going to talk about some coaching. So we have, in case anyone missed it, we have 2 full segments here of Lud's Damn Discord to finish it up today. Coming from the airport here, so we're trying to keep it as simple as possible. But let's start out with coaches. So in 2025, we've had 9 coaches hired. So I'm going to kind of go through them here, Luds. And I don't know do you want me to kind of go through all of them and you can pick out someone to stand out, or do you want to go through them one by one?
However you prefer. You're driving the bus.
Yeah, that's a mistake right there.
If you want, we can touch on each one. I don't care.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's touch on each. I'm just curious your thoughts on each one. So let's start with the big one, Anaheim Ducks. They fire Greg Cronin and hire Joel Quenneville, who obviously became eligible to coach again. What do you see from a pretty well-known coach coming to a team that's looking to take the next step?
Yeah, I think that there's probably been a few organizations waiting for him to get the green light to get back into the league. He did his time, and I was surprised with the Cronin, right? But I got a feeling that Beaker there had a plan with the whole thing, because I believe they had at least a 20 or 24 point improvement from the year before with Anaheim. So I would think that it was a bit of a shock to Cronin. I don't know him. I've never met him before. But I think anytime, and my guess would be that Pat Verbeek probably had a pretty good feeling that his team was getting to that next level. And, you talk about some teams that have gone through some growing pains. And my guess is that he felt like this was the time, and maybe it lined up just perfectly with Joel being able to get back into the NHL. And sometimes you wonder, like, were they able to talk to him? Did he know that this was coming?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'm always curious about that kind of stuff. So anyway, I think it sounds like it's the right time. Quenneville is obviously, he's proven himself as an unbelievable coach. 3 Stanley Cups in his belt. So I would say it's a great move for Anaheim.
Yeah, it feels like that's the weird one for me with Cronin, because we've seen it a few times now. I don't remember if it's Chicago or someone else that did the same thing. It's a team that's in complete rebuild, right? They're at the bottom of the standings. They know they're going to be at the bottom of the standings, and then they fire their coach after a season of being at the bottom of the standing. Maybe it was San Jose. It just doesn't make any sense to me how that works. So maybe you're right. Maybe this was a known kind of thing for the time being, and then we're gonna go get someone who's going to take us to that next level. And I think they're already making their team. They're trying to take a different step, right? They're trying to take the next step, but they're also trying to shift over a little bit from that high skill Trevor Zegras type style, just to try to get people to watch their games, to a little more of a two-way hockey game. I'm curious to see what they look like this year, but I think you're right. We know Quenneville's story, right? I'm not going to get into any of that history, but as a coach, he's won it all. He knows a lot about the game, and he should be able to bring a lot out of his team. So,
and this is one of the reasons, Sam, just talking about what Dallas did, why I think it's important to get that coach as soon as you possibly can, instead of after everything is kind of done, because look at the moves that Anaheim did after they hired Quenneville. And so to me, it tells me that he was part of every one of those decisions, and they were probably run by him. Knowing the kind of team, what is there, how he likes to coach, how these players are going to fit. So I just think that's how you do it. And Pat Verbeek and Joe Q found a way to pull it off.
Yeah. All right, next up is the Boston Bruins. So we know the Bruins fired Jim Montgomery before he went over to St. Louis. Then they had Joe Sacco as the interim. They now hire Marco Sturm. What? Let's just say, what is going on with the Bruins, and what are they looking to do? Because they were a bit of a disaster last year.
I think this would be a great time we should have talked about this. We never talk about anything, by the way, all you people. At least I don't talk to anybody about anything. This would have been a great time to have that surprise guest. You know who my guest would be? John Anderson, our former producer that bailed on us to go big time with the Cowboys. Let me tell you, I feel bad for the Joe Saccos of the world. I feel bad for all the assistant that when there's a removal of a coach and they come to the guy in the middle of the season and say, hey, listen, we want to give you the head job. I don't know why sometimes why they do it, because it seems like as soon as they do, they're gone. And you're out. Now you're out looking for another gig. I would say, no, I'm here. I like being here. Although a head coach does get an opportunity to bring his own coaches in. Well, there was one in Dallas right now. I don't know if he got a chance to bring his in, because I don't know if he brought any of his in. So I know nothing about the history of Marco Sturm. So I couldn't tell you. Has he been coaching in the minors? Is he over in Europe coaching? I don't know anything about him.
Yeah. So I was just looking up his record. So let's see where he was previously, because I know he's a former player. I want to say, I may be mistaken, but I thought he was coaching with the Wild. He was with the Ontario Reign. I know that. The LA Kings
or a head coach?
AHL team. He was the head coach of the Reign.
Okay.
In 2022. He was an assistant. Yeah, so assistant with LA in 2018. Assistant with LA all the way up until 2022, and then he was a head coach of the Ontario Reign up until now. So I was just curious if there was a gap in there. There wasn't. He was the head coach of the Ontario Reign the last 3 years. So been a head coach, similar to what we said about a Neil Graham. You know, this is his first head coaching NHL job. We were wondering whether he'd be ready. Obviously, Boston's a different team, right? We imagine if Neil Graham was the coach of the I think it's the Providence Bruins, then he jumps up and probably coaches the Bruins, right? He's probably ready for a job like that. He maybe just isn't ready for a team that's trying to win a Stanley Cup like Dallas. So I'm just curious to see. It feels weird with Boston. Just like it feels like they just constantly get rid of coaches. Meanwhile, those guys up top are still just chugging along and trying to figure out the same thing. So
who's got the balls to kick Cam Neely out of his seat?
That's what I'm wondering, right? Is it ever gonna take the step to the higher level in terms of changes? I don't know that it will. But next up, we have the Quenneville's old stomping grounds. Chicago Blackhawks go from Anders Sorensen to Jeff Blashill. What do you see as Chicago? It's another one of those teams in here that you'd imagine wants to take a step forward, but it's been some tough sledding for Connor Bedard and company the last year or so.
I would say good luck to Blash. And again, I think if you're a coach that's looking to get a head coaching gig, you'll take whatever is possible that you can. And again, maybe the bar is low there, and maybe that's a good thing for a guy like Blashill. He comes in. I do feel for Luke Richardson prior to that. I mean, he did such a good job with those players that were there. I thought he improved a lot of those players there, and then he's get shown the door. So, the bar's not very, very high there. So I think you go into that situation, and if you're going to improve the team by 10 to 15 points at the end of the year, it looks like you're going in the right direction. And I think that's all you can hope for.
I think I might have asked this before, but I'm always just curious. If you're Chicago, you're obviously, like you said, you're not trying to jump up and make a playoff spot right away or make any sort of real run. You're trying to take a small step forward just to show that you're improving. Is that more in the standings and wins, or is that more of the style you play? Like, is that like, hey, we're playing a complete game here and we're at least competing every night? Or is it really, we got to see 10 more wins in the season to make this really look good?
I think with the kind of team that Chicago has, what if I were a general manager, I'd be looking for some consistency and some growth. Like your game has got to be, you can't be, you got to find a way to put in as close to 60 minutes to be competitive. And I think once you do that, you start to see the little steps. And then more importantly for the organization, they're starting to see which players should stick around there, and which ones can be,
right.
Because they've been trying to bring in some older guys to kind of lead the way and things like that. And I feel bad too for a guy like Connor Bedard. I mean, he's been that guy, and I think he looks around the league and sees some of these young kids coming into the league, and they come into with good teams, and they have an opportunity to showcase their skill and stuff like that. And I think it's affected Bedard at times that I've watched him play, because he kind of becomes a one-man show, and he probably feels the guy that won the lottery is our Dallas native, is Seth Jones. I mean, he finally got out of what he considered prison there, and then ends up with a Stanley Cup ring.
Wins the cup. And it's funny with Bedard, because it's almost like you got to pick one or the other, right? If you're the top generational talent, you're going to a bad team. There's just no way around it. And I guess the goal for him is hoping that, he saw Connor McDavid kind of at the beginning of their time there. They weren't the best team. They built themselves into a good team, and all of a sudden they are who they are. I guess you just got to hope you're 5 years away instead of 9. I guess that's the only way to look at it, is like, let's say we're a playoff team in 5 years, and you push through it for 5-6 years as a rookie and deal with it. That's okay. If it starts to extend, that's when you get the conversations like we're seeing on Long Island and other places, where they're like, you know what, we just don't believe what's going on right now. We want to change it up. So I feel for you. That was interesting to see him go through it, especially because he came out of the gates just on fire. Then he gets hurt his first year. Then last year, he seems like people figured him out. But anyway, moving on. We can skip the Dallas Stars. I believe we talked about Glenn Gulbson a few times here, but the New York Rangers, who I think probably won this whole thing. They go from Peter Laviolette, again, another great coach, didn't work out for them last year with everything going on, to Mike Sullivan, a proven winner, former Penguins, 2-time Stanley Cup champion. What do you think Mike Sullivan brings to that team? And I guess the big question for me is, do you see them as a team that has to take a step back and then rebuild a little bit, or as a team that is just trying to figure out a way to get back to where they were? I mean, they won the President's Trophy like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think with everything that was going on there with, Kreider, and, they had a few guys. They had a couple of big guys or captains and guys that were leaders there, had some issues there. And so I think that team got derailed there. And I think when you bring in, I think Drury and the general manager, I'm surprised that he got an extension or got a new contract out of that whole thing with everything that was going on there. But him and Sullivan are buddies, so they go back a ways. And so I think if you're bringing that guy in, it's not a rebuild; it's a retool at the least. And I know it seems like they're trying to work something out with Zibanejad. I thought for a while he may be a guy, and I would love to have him, but I think they're trying to do that. To Keandre Miller, they left him go, so Kreider is gone. They've got some pieces that have left there. So it'll be interesting. They obviously have a great goaltender. That's a place for them to start. But I think the bottom line is with Sullivan there, I don't think they're ever going to be done all year long adding if they can add.
Yeah.
Speaking of ads,
we have plenty more to talk about. Nice, well done. Plenty more to talk about here next on DLLS.
All right, well, just like your favorite team needs home ice advantage, your home needs a home flooring advantage, and Empire Today can help. Empire Today has dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. Empire Today lives and breathes flooring, and they're with you every step of the way. It's a whole different ballgame. Get your measurements taken and have all your questions answered so there are no more surprises. With Empire Today, you get a clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing, plus you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. DLLS listeners can receive a $350 discount with using promo code DLLS. That's right, $350 off with the code DLLS. Restrictions apply.
Thanks, Luds. Let's talk about Game Time now. Game Time is your best place to get tickets, whether it's last minute or now, even ahead of time, for anything that you can think of. We just got through an NHL season, a NBA season. We're in the middle of the MLB season. We got concerts, as me and Luds are going to in the next couple of days here. But another thing going on right now is the FIFA Club World Cup going on until, I believe, the end of this weekend. So Game Time exclusive zone deals for FIFA, 10% off exclusive zone deals for the FIFA World Cup, Club World Cup matches. Game Time makes it easy. Like there's no guesswork. You go in and you look at what tickets you want. It gives you the full pricing up front. So there's nothing that surprises you at the end. There's nothing worse than when you go on, you get your tickets, you're all excited, and you go to check out and it adds another $100 on there. Last minute tickets, zone deals, views from your seat, lowest price guarantee. They have everything that you need. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, redeem the code DLLS for 20% off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's keep this thing rolling. Next up on our list is the Philadelphia Flyers. The man, Rick Tocchet, who seems to be making his rounds in the NHL, whether it's behind a bench or on TNT. He takes over for Brad Shaw. What do you see for Tocchet, and what do you see for that Philadelphia Flyers team?
Well, didn't you mention Trevor Zegras a little while ago, a couple minutes ago? Well, he is now a Philadelphia Flyer.
And mold, right?
Yeah. Well, as soon as Toc took over there, you knew right away that there was going to be a change of identity. And I think Torts, who's been there for a while, I think he did what he could do with that team. He seems to be that kind of guy that can, squeeze 2-3 years out of trying to get some players to be professional players. And then he's got an expiration date. So Torts moves on. Toc comes in. Rick Tocchet, as soon as there were a couple players that were added to that team, it's like Toc, when he got off the plane, he drove to somebody's house and said, I want you because we're changing the culture and we're going to play 1980, 1990 kind of hockey. So I would expect that. The one thing for sure, I believe that the fans are going to be clamoring to get in there because they believe the badge, or what were they called? The Broad Street Bullies back in the day.
Broad Street Bullies,
I don't think that you're going to get to that level, but I think that there's going to be a team that if you're going to, and I love the way that he likes to coach. I believe it's probably going to be the same. If you're going to beat us, you're going to pay the price for beating us. You're going to know that you beat us at the end of the game. So I would think that they're going to have that kind of a club. I think they're going to be hard to play against, but I think Rick Tocchet demands, and I don't even think he has to demand the respect. I mean, I don't care how old you are. If you're, an 18-year-old coming to the league or 22, you probably know or you've heard of Rick Tocchet and you know how he played the game and how he wants to coach the game. So I just think that it's going to be an exciting team. I think they're probably going to, I don't know if they're going to take a step forward, but I think you're going to see some growth in that organization.
Do you see Tocchet? I'm always curious because Tocchet's obviously, if you're, kind of looking at the ones that are a little more not angry, but you know what I mean, a little more aggressive, a little louder coaches. That's the Tocchets, the Tortorettos that stand out. Peter Laviolette. what's the difference Tocchet and Tortorella? Is he more of a player's coach than Tortorella, or kind of how would you just differentiate those two?
I think Toc is more of a coach that when he looks at you, you'll know that you did something wrong. And Torts always has this other kind of look, and sometimes you're not going to see any interviews, first off, and I know they're just interviews, and everybody says, well, I didn't hear that. They all hear it. They all hear the interviews. They read it. However they get it, social media, it's out there. I think Toc is more of a hard coach, but he's the kind of guy that coaches and tutors players, especially the young guys, and brings them along. I think Tortorella does and did the same thing. It's just in a different way. Again, Torts is known for coaching.
Yeah.
Toc is known for playing. And I think from a young kid to a veteran, you respect probably a little bit more coming from a guy that played the game the way that he did, the success that he did, that he has on the ice and now has off the ice. So I think the buy-in is probably a little bit easier from his standpoint, that whatever you're trying to sell, you're going to have the guy's ears, and that reputation of Tortorella when he moves to a new team, you're probably going, oh no, you know what I mean? Like, oh no. So with Toc, I think there'd be guys more excited knowing that you truly do have a second chance to make a first impression with him. Because if you're going to do the little things that he's going to ask of you, he'll reward you with minutes, which is the most important thing to young players.
Yeah,
now.
Simple. I like that. All right, next up we had the Pittsburgh Penguins, who were coached by Mike Sullivan and now going to be coached by Sidney Crosby. Dan Muse. Sidney Crosby somehow still there, despite all of the noise that's made mostly by people like us, that he's going to be going somewhere else. Dan Muse, a new young coach. What's that transition? I guess not necessarily what does that do for the team. How does that work with Sidney Crosby and the older core that they have there to make this transition work?
Well, I would think that Sid and the new coach will obviously be having conversations prior to the season getting started, along with the general manager. Sid Crosby knows exactly where he is. He knows where the team is. He knows. I think that this thing right here has got just as good a chance at having success on that bench as Muse has. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know. They've got a general manager that's going to have to pull some things off, and it would not surprise me as much as Crosby has said, I'm finishing here. It would not surprise me at some point during the season. And there's a lot of talk about the Avs, especially you get down and his 8.8 or whatever his salary is, and now all of a sudden it's only $4 million or $3 million, depending how far he goes. He may be moving just to try to get a chance to win a Stanley Cup again and come back. So all eyes will be on Crosby, but I just think Sid is obviously, the consummate professional. He is not. You won't see any frustration out of him. I think he's going to be looked at, trying to help some of these younger guys and help this organization as much as he can move along a little bit.
That's the thing, right? He's won two? He's won 2 cups. He's won gold medals.
3. 3.
He's won 3. He's won 3 cups. He's won gold medals. So he's done it all already. That doesn't mean he's not a competitor and he shouldn't want to win another one. But it is an interesting team to watch this year, because if he does stay there, start the season and throughout the whole year, you got a coach in Muse who has NHL assistant experience, but all of his head coaching is juniors and college and young players. So it's a good fit in that way, because Pittsburgh's trying to retool, as you said, but you also have these guys there that have been there for a while, and you got Sidney Crosby, one of the greatest of all time. It's going to be a weird dynamic. And I think Jeff Merrick and them were talking about it on 32 Thoughts or whatever podcast that they were on, and saying, it can't be a Sidney Crosby slapshot player coach situation here, right? Muse needs to come in and he needs to show that he's the guy and he's the one in charge. It's just going to be a weird dynamic. And as you said, the good thing there is Sidney Crosby is the last person that's going to cause trouble. He's a team guy first. He's a leader. So it'd just be interesting to watch them this year, not just on the ice, but off the ice, how things go in that dressing room.
They should give Crosby the associate coach title.
Yes, he should. He'll get a C and an A on his Twitter. All right, we got two more here. So the Seattle Kraken go from Dan Blasma to Lane Lambert. The Kraken, obviously, another one of those teams that took a big step back after being a playoff team, knocking off the Colorado Avalanche and pushing Dallas to 7 games a couple years ago. What do you see from the Kraken this year with the new coach, Lane Lambert?
Yeah, I think for me, it's more about how that team improves with Lambert getting a chance. He's been a long time assistant. He's been there, and he seems to be the ride or die kind of guy for his head coaches that he's been with. So I think for me, it's interesting to see what they can do. That Seattle team needs to take a step too. I mean, there's some teams we're talking about that we expect them to improve. So there's some pressure on, you're coming into that situation. You've got some good players there. And so he's one of the ones, I guess I got to wait and see on that. And it's kind of hard for me to, the other ones, there's certain things about them, right? You're up and coming team, man, you don't have a chance. And so there's some guys in some situations. This one here, I think that might be a little more pressure because you're expected, this team needs to take a step.
Yeah. It's a weird one. They got Mason Marchment, as we know, from Dallas. It's just a weird team. It felt like they were going to be like Vegas, and they were, wow, this team's already good day one off the bat, and then they looked like a totally different team after that first season. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do here. But finally, the Vancouver Canucks. Rick Tocchet obviously leaves there, and Adam Foote takes over, a very well-known name in hockey. What do you see from Foote over there, and what's this team all about? Are they finally pushing all that drama and garbage aside from last season?
Well, I think with Foote going in there, it's probably a needed voice change, because they went through the whole Tocchet thing and things weren't changing. And I think when you go back to Tocchet, I think there's times when he was standing on the bench, he looked a little bit frustrated what was going on. They got Pedersen and all that other kind of thing there. I think he's going to be happy there with Foote coming in. He probably doesn't come in with the same kind of aura around him as a Rick Tocchet does, but Adam Foote was a hard-nosed defenseman when he played the game. Reliable, dependable, just did all the right things. Good leader for that Avs team and everything that he did, the way that he played, the way he went about his business. So I don't think he's going to expect anything different out of the team. I think just he probably understands, and he'll have enough conversations with the top players and see, and you take in kind of the conversations are going to go, well, how did Talk handle this? And when you were with Talk, what happened here? You can talk about those kind of things. And I think you get that kind of information, especially, when you've got some you got some good players there. Now, if they can all of a sudden, you can talk to them in a similar way, but not the same way if you got any info from how Talk did. And so you may have to take your foot off the throat of a Pedersen a little bit more, and just give him a little more rope and stay away from him and see if he responds a little bit more of that, because it obviously didn't work with the former coach. So those kind of things, I think, is where you go in there and look, well, I know the kind of team we have. We got a player back. We thought he was gone. He signed a big contract, all this other kind of stuff. So I just think that you can change the team just by the way that you're going to change your tone and how you talk to your players.
Yeah, which is huge nowadays. We've talked about it tons of times, right? The way to communicate with players has changed drastically. So I want to ask, before we move on to the next segment here, going back to you as a player, if you're on the side of a player on a new team, let's say you're in a Dallas locker room or any of those teams we just mentioned there, how does the process work when a new coach comes in? How do they usually go about their business? But two, more importantly, I'm curious for you, what do you want to see? What kind of communication do you want? How do you want them to come in? What steps do you want them to take to get into there? And obviously you guys got to build trust both ways, right? So what does that process look like? And how would your preference and how that would work if you're in that room?
I think if you're the coach, you want to come in and you have a conversation with every one of them, and you want to listen more than you want to talk. You just have to kind of figure out what makes this guy tick. In the generation, the majority of it, there wasn't a lot of talk. There weren't meetings. You didn't have exit meetings like we talked about. You didn't have meetings when you came in. You basically you did your job. You tried to impress them by the way that you played and the way that you kind of go about your business. And then from there, that was it. Now, as I got older, I ended up being with a couple. I was fortunate. I had a guy like Rick Wilson, who I had in college. I mean, I had him in a couple different places. And so there was a relationship there. And so he could come to me and get the temperature of our team. And then ultimately it moved from going to Wills to going to Hitch and things like that. And Hitchcock was an old throwback kind of coach. I mean, he was hard. He was a hard ass. I mean, but what I liked about Hitch, what impressed guys like me, is that he was just as hard on the Madonos and the Lewandykes and the Zubovs as he was on a player like me, which you never hear that. And so, and that's where now all of a sudden it had to be, then Hitch and I would have a little conversation about handling him. Or it would be like, well, you go tell Mo in your own way. You tell Mo this has got to, and you just kind of sugarcoat it for a guy like Mike, because you just like, Mike, I would just tell Mo, just don't even worry about it. Just go play. You're going to be fine. You're not missing any ice time. So these guys now, they want information. They want you to give them information. Where before we were like, as long as he's not talking to me, everything must be good. Because when they're talking to you, they're talking to you. You're probably a game away from sitting in the stands. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're not telling you that, but you should read into it if they never talked at all. So I just think now they want as much. It's amazing how much info they want. And again, the hardest thing for me in today's game to be a coach is to be on the bench. And when they come back to the bench, they don't talk to anybody. They get on that little iPad and they just stare at that thing and they watch their shift every single time. They don't watch the game. They just watch the iPad. But that's the way it is. And where I thought it was ridiculous. And, we've talked to a couple guys. We've talked to a couple coaches and asked them about it. And they hate it too. But you can't change it. It's how they learn now. They're visual learners. They want to see things. And, the game has all shifted in that for the players now. There's more work. People get hired to be able to put those kind of things together and make sure they get everything they need. So I think you're just a little more personal and you're kind of maybe a little chilled down. But you do also have to learn what makes them tick, because not everybody, you can't push the button with everybody. It's not the same button with every single player. You have to find the right ones to push.
Yeah. And I was thinking, I feel like it used to be the most important. Like I coached lacrosse, like youth stuff and things like that when I was growing up. But I'm just curious. I always think like, when you first come in, you want to make sure they respect you, right? You can be friendly with the players and laugh and have jokes, but you don't do that from the start, because then that's how you're looked at, and you're looked at as that type of coach. I don't even know anymore. Like obviously you still need them to respect you, but it's just a totally different style of coaching. And I feel like that's why so many people have trouble, because they don't know where that line is anymore. I want to come in and make sure I command this room. I'm the boss here, but then Pete DeBoer does that and is the stubborn boss that has his way, and he rubs people the wrong way and ends up getting fired. So it's just a tough
You just got to kind of let them come to you. You let them come to you. You'll know the ones that come to you. Then you kind of have an idea. Okay, well, we can interact with him. And then there's a guy that sits over in the corner all the time and really wants you to leave him alone. So you have to handle him differently than the ones that are a little more outgoing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Good stuff. We have 2 Lud's Damn Discord segments coming up next on DLLS. But first, let's talk about branded bills. I don't have my hat on today because it is in this suitcase at the airport, and I don't know how to get to it because it's too tight. But I do love wearing hats, and branded bills is a great place to go. If you need trucker hats, fitteds, beanies, or tees, and as our fans were asking for yesterday, maybe someday even a beret, then Branded Bills has you covered with performance and style. If you're looking for gear to make your brand stand apart from the crowd, Branded Bills will get you there with the best custom headwear and gear out there. Start your order, and the dedicated team will help you create the exact custom apparel you need. No worrying about if that's the one you like. No worrying about if that's the wrong font. They will help you get there with customization options all the way up. And they have a partnership with 40 different colleges as a part of their campus collection, including TCU, Texas Tech, and Texas. We'll have to see if we can get some SMU and other local ones in there as well. But Branded Bills, it has you covered. They're awesome style guys. They have awesome different styles, different fits, tons of different logos. Makes it really easy to find what you want if you want to rock a hat every day, like our off-screen nacho producer or off-screen queso producer, Elijah back there. So head to brandedbills.com and use the code BBDLLS. That's B as in boy, B as in boy, DLLS for 15% off your first order at brandedbills.com.
Hey, Mando, if anybody's listening from Mando, reach out. I'll give you our address. We're up here in northern Wisconsin. This is a product that should be on every street corner. Mando's a men's deodorant brand that's hyper-focused on keeping every aspect of a man's body smelling fresh and clean, every aspect. Mando overtly calls out more colorful parts of men's bodies, such as pits, belly buttons, your nuts, rocks, butt cracks, grundles, the old faithful grundle, and even your feet. Yes, your feet. Their scents are generally geared towards men, like Burton Leather, Cloverwood, Mount Fuji, and Pro Sport. Created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated, clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor up to 72 hours. This is your test case up here about them 72 hours. But listen to this one. 12 hours after a shower, the average man's grundle, that's the taint, nacho, whatever. Yeah, the odor level was a 5 out of 10. That's 12 hours after your average shower. With Mando, an average grundle odor is a level 0 out of 10. In other words, there's no stank there, Logan. There's nothing there. You just don't stink. How do you sign up for that team? Use code DLLS and shop mando.com.
Well done, lads. All right, we're going to give Mando a little extra shout out here because our first Discord comment is about Mando. So let's just hit it with that. I'm going to read them off to you, lads. There's a couple here for me, but most of them obviously are for you. You just give as short or long of an answer and tell me next, and we'll move on. But the first one is from our pal Burned Oils, who I see in our chat right now on the show. It says, not a question, just a comment. Thank you, Luds, for suggesting me to use Mando. Now my grundle smells really good. I always tell my chicks that. So
happy to hear it. Happy to hear it. Next,
you are helping out the crowd.
It's right. The visual thing that's going on. I just can't get past it.
All right. From Bonzo on Discord, were Daryl and Vinny hockey fans prior to meeting you, or was becoming friends with you what got them into hockey?
I will say that Vinny had to be, because our first year, Richard Matvichuk, who we had on the show a couple weeks ago, Matty and I went out after practice one day, which we once in a while did that. And we're at one of them dark kind of places. And so when we walked in, there was about 10 guys, 10 people sitting down by the stage. And so I got up to go to the bathroom. I kind of walked past them, and I noticed, man, there must have been 4 bottles of Crown and vodka, and everything was on the table, and they're all having a good time. Anyway, I came out of the bathroom, walked by the same guys on the way back, and all of a sudden I heard they yelled, "Hey, Ludwig." And I kind of turned and I looked at him. I'm like, can't be coming from those guys. And it was Vinny. And Vinny came up to me, introduced himself, and just kind of rattled off my teams and Montreal and all this kind of stuff. So,
wow.
Yeah. And it was Pantera and Alice in Chains. So they were all sitting there. So then I just kind of motioned to Matty, came down, and that's kind of how that relationship started. I don't think Dime was as much into it as Vinny was, but they obviously did, because, you know, there's a big thing about the number 3, and if everybody knows the wet willy thing, this, and you stick it in your ear. Mm-hmm. Dime would come up behind me all the time, and he'd go 3, and he said the 3 thing, and he'd stick his finger in my ear. So anyway, so I would have to say that Vinny was probably more into the sport, although Vinny was just a diehard sports fan. You know, and I don't even know if Dime and those guys were that much, but Vinny was into all Dallas sports.
All right. Next up for Luds, this is from Robotic Otter. What's the craziest or most memorable fan interaction you had during your playing career?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be fan. I'd go back to our first cup in Montreal. You know, I was in my fourth year, maybe. I'm not even sure. 3rd, 4th year when we won the cup. And you knew that the fans were diehards, you know, very intelligent, suits and all that kind of stuff. But when we won the cup and then we got into the parade, there were 2 players per car. They were convertibles. And we went down to the city hall to sign some stuff downtown, and probably from downtown back, say, St. Catherine Street, back to the Forum. If you're going to drive it, it may take you 15, 20 minutes or something, like not even that much, and in traffic back to the Forum. We were in those cars for over 7 hours, and our cars were totaled. I mean, and there was no lines, stay back, nothing like that. They were right there. As a matter of fact, they had ropes, and they'd throw them out in the crotches and the lights. There were people sitting up in the crotches and the lights to be able to see and they were throwing bottles of beer up to them. And you can imagine what that sounded like, guns going off at the time when they weren't catching them. But the fans were there. It took so long. I could literally get out of the car, go upstairs into one of the bars to have a pee, come back down, and the car still wasn't there yet. That's how long it took you. I had, I think we counted, I had 19 or 20 bottles of Dom Perignon in the floor of the car when I got back to the Forum and we had the parade. So it was to say that those fans, and they knew. You could go back today. I go back and there's a big ball tournament there that's called the PIF. We go back and you go downtown Montreal. They still know you. It's amazing. It's a different generation. Yeah. So the Montreal fans were incredible, and that was my first experience. And then you kind of get used to it when you go other places, right? And then people know who you are. And nothing's like it'd be. I'm sure it's very similar to Dallas Cowboys. When they go downtown and things like that, everybody knows who they are. So, but the fans, as far as I've been concerned, they've always been great. But I was like a fan. I was a fan of theirs. I was just having a good time with everybody at the bar.
I love that. All right, next up, Uncle D. This might be a quick answer from Uncle D904. How much stock does Luds put in the hiring of Golitzin, being a prelude to the Stars making a run at Connor McDavid?
Oh Jesus, that ain't happening. Yeah, no, that we can't even get a bag of pucks right now. There's no money in there. I don't know how they're going to get Connor McDavid. So I don't see Connor McDavid ever. Yeah, that's a pass. That would be a great dream, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
Yeah, it'd be one of those
what do you think,
just
Sam?
dream
You
about it
think
forever. No, I don't.
No.
I don't. I don't even know if he's ever going to move anywhere. But all right, from Meme Boy, has there ever been a time when you were defending someone and you saw someone skating up saying, "Oh boy," as in, I don't want to have to go against this guy?
Say it to me. What do you mean?
I'm assuming that's the way it sounds. You're defending and you saw someone skate up the ice and or maybe you saying it. Go either way. Was there ever a time you looked up and saw someone and said, oh boy, I got to go against this guy?
Well, I would say that there were times that if you got a lick on them, in previous games, or you play against people enough, and you could tell that they'll go to the other side of the ice. And for me, that was a win. I mean, because then I didn't have to get danced. But I would say that most players would want to come down my side. They know at least I'm not going to be, the defensemen are so good today with their skating ability. They stand up at the offensive blue lines, as far as the opponents are coming at you. And so that wasn't me. I mean, they could be at the red line, at center line, and I would already be at the top of the circle in our zone. But I tell you one thing, you weren't getting to the net. So you'd have to go out the Zamboni door and try to come in the other way, because I wasn't giving you the middle of the ice. But if you got a lick on guys, it was kind of a compliment if you had a good gap and they dumped it in. So you kind of went, okay, well, I would rather have that than try to go around me. Yeah.
All right. This is Sooner fan 4321. Does Luds miss producer John yet?
Not at all. I despise him now that he walked away.
Perfect.
So,
perfect.
We've got a great producer now.
Yes,
so
we do.
We're in a good spot with Elijah.
You're already getting free hats from him. John can
exactly. Never would have got one of them from Anderson. Nothing.
Yeah, no way. All right. This is Uncle D904 again. He says, if asked, would you consider coaching in the NHL?
Yeah, but I mean, it would be in a special kind of thing. Like, I have my wheelhouse, and to everything that you guys all hear me complain about, I think that, and for me, I've been with all the young kids. I've been with 17, 18-year-old kids now for 15, 17 years. So you kind of get to know all the things we were talking about earlier about how you talk to players and things like that. You get to learn the kids. And again, they're a different breed, and you got to find a different way to talk to them. And even when I first started, I mean, I had guys like Seth Jones, and I had Blake Coleman, and, and so even those guys, but you could tell, you figure out who they are pretty quick before you go to a player. But I think it would make me think, because I would think I could fix a couple things.
And that's a good way to look at it. T-Sem, I see yours talking about the Texas Stars. We will get to that on a different topic. Sean's probably a better one to ask about that. Let's move on for Mean Boy again. Does Luds remember being at the Green Apple right after they won the cup? He said, I found some old photos of my dad drinking out of the cup and wondered if Luds was there with Madonna and Hatcher. The green apple. I don't know.
Okay,
Do you know what that is?
who is this?
This is
Mean Boy?
Mean Boy. Yeah, Mean Boy.
Okay, well, first thing's Mean Boy. It is the Big Apple. So you're a little mistaken right off the hop. And as a matter of fact, Joe, the owner, I sent Joe a message Joe sent me a message at 7:00 this morning because our alumni director, Bob Basson, Joe reached out to me actually about 4 days ago. And we got Joe, they're doing a fundraiser for all the problems that happened down south in Texas there. Yep. So Bass got a Mikko Rantanen jersey signed that Joe is going to be auctioning off out there at the Big Apple Cafe. So, and yes, I was there. I was there. I was definitely there every single moment that it was there. I was there. I was the keeper of the cup at the Apple.
Yeah, well, apparently this guy's dad or this person's dad was drinking out of it. So that's a nice day for them there. All right. Oh, great. I got a reference in here. So from Harry Wagstaff, would Luds rather fight 30 Bud Light sized Sams or drink one Sam sized Bud Light? As in, would you rather fight 30 mini me's or drink a 5'9" Bud Light?
I would rather drink a 5'9" Bud Light because then I'd be done with it. I'd be done with it quicker.
You don't have to deal with it.
The 30 size mini me's would be like little termites crawling all over the place. So I'd rather just kill that can and be done with it.
That's fair. They'd be running around trying to get pucks out of the zone. All right. Well, we're going to do one more break here, and then we will continue this next on DLLS. All right, but first, let's talk about being a diehard. And what a better time to talk about being a diehard than when we're doing the Luds Damn Discord right here. All these questions that you're getting some hilarious answers and funny stories, that's because of these diehards that sign up, join our Discord channel, and send in all these questions for Luds Damn Discord segment. You get plenty more when you become a diehard. You get access to all of our writing without ads. That's mine, that's Sean's, that's our guys over at the Rangers, Cowboys, Mavs. All the great stuff going out there for all of your Dallas sports. You get access to, like I said, the Discord. You get 20% off apparel. We have tons of cool new gear. I would see what it is, but I've been signed out of my tab. So I'm going to try to remember what the shirts are. I know we have the Mikko Rantanen finisher shirt as well as the Wyatt Johnston shirt, which are very cool. We have the Finnish Mafia shirt, which is, I believe, our highest selling shirt ever, especially once Mikko Rantanen signed on to that team. Unfortunately, we lost Mikael Granlund, so the Finnish number has been dropped by one, but still the Finnish Mafia. We have the new Jake Ottinger shirt with a potential appearance from a certain goaltender coming up maybe on our show, and that's a great shirt. We also have all kinds of other shirts, and you can get 20% off that. You can get 20% or discounts on any kind of trips or events, including the DLLS Cowboys crew who are heading to Vegas in this fall for Monday Night Football against the Las Vegas Raiders. You get to go hang out with the crew, obviously go to the game, hang out in Vegas, and have a good time. As I say, every time I do this read, Lud's still waiting for his invite for that trip, and that so far I haven't gotten mine either, so a little disappointed. But become a diehard, you get access to everything. You get to hang out with us. You get to come to events like we do at Happiest Hour, or come have a beer tower with Luds, or eat a giant pretzel. It's a good time. We have another great season coming up here. Hopefully a very successful playoff run, and we get to hang with you guys. So be a diehard, alldls.com/diehard, or scan that QR code that Luds is pointing at the wrong corner of.
Why? Right. Why do you always say that? It's right in front of me. It's right there.
Same thing happens to me whenever I point
over that way.
Oh, and
you want me to point over there?
It's over. Yeah, it's on your right arm. Yep, there you go. All right, let's keep going here, Luds. We have from AJN Rules. If GM Ben is allowing you to choose one of your former Stars teammates to join the chaos of the DLS Stars podcast, who do you pick? That's a great question.
Shane Churla.
Okay,
I would pick Churls. Churls tackled me when the U.S. team was here, when they were playing out there in Frisco a couple weeks ago. Churls was there scouting, and he come up to me, and so I invited him out for them a couple nights too, and he declined, which is odd. But No, it would be Churls, and the reason that would be is Churls and I were roommates for a long time, and there would be many things that I don't know if we could talk about them, but there were some places that we could go. But we were pretty tight, so I would say Churls. It's hard to pick one, to be honest with you. I think we probably there would be more. You folks would be more entertained if you could listen to us, and that probably shouldn't be on a podcast. It should probably just be sitting in a bar talking. It might be safer that way.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we forget, let's hit these. Elijah, can you throw up Burned Oils super chat from earlier? And Luds, can I get a bing bong?
Bing bong.
All right. Burned Oils, a Nils Lundqvist and Miro Heiskanen. Glad Luds is having the time of his life speaking to our nice and beautiful smiling Sam, a mentor and a son. Yes, this is one of the more unique setups here with just me and Luds. It's an interesting layout, but it's been good. We've had a good time this week. Luds, give me one more. We have one more bing bong.
Bing bong.
All right, from Ken Murphy Photography. He's got to be racking up the super chats. So I keep seeing his name. That is a Jamie Benn and a Craig Ludwig. Late arriving. This might have been talked about. If not, Luds has to comment on a Nick Tarnasky golfing adventure a few days ago.
God.
Steers. All right, quick for that because we have to answer the super chat question.
If you haven't seen it, you got to go watch it. Tarnowski was a former player, and I think played Florida, as a matter of fact, for the Panthers. Anyway, it was your typical day on the golf course when you've played too many holes and you're trying to do a beer a hole, and some dude was taking his time getting off the tee box or in the middle of the fairway, whatever it was, and he came up to Tarnowski and he got feeded. He had dinner, and then he had dinner again, and he told him you could hear if you listen to it. He said something about, "I'm going to throw you in that lake," and he gave him a toss. I thought he was going to land in the lake the one time. So it's probably if it doesn't end up having a couple million views, I have no idea how it doesn't, because it is. And you could hear in the background somebody going, "You shouldn't do that. He's a former NHL player," or something like that. And then it was boom, 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 and the guy just kept coming back for more. So he's paying for it today, I'm sure.
Yeah, you never know who you're talking trash to on the stadium or a golf course. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so this is from Aaliyah for Luds. With rumors of a new jersey coming this year for the Stars, what direction for the jersey would you take? Are there elements of past jerseys that you like better?
You know, my favorite's always been just the Dallas. The Dallas across the crest. And you could go back to the day, but everybody loves the old jerseys and things like that. You can't do that. They got to kind of move on to what they are. The only thing I would say is I love the Dallas thing. That would be my way. And I don't know if everybody, even if they haven't seen those, you should take a look at them. They're really nice. But
are you talking about just the word Dallas, or are you talking about when it's over the?
Just the word Dallas.
Okay,
just really? The word Dallas. It's kind of a throwback. We did that with our U18s. And then actually what I had heard is that they took that. I don't know if Dallas had that jersey. Did they have a logo on there too? Or they just have Dallas?
No, they had in the 2011, that bankrupt time, they had one black jersey that just said Dallas right across the chest.
Yeah. And see, we had them the year before for our U18s, and then all of a sudden they had them. So maybe they were ours. Maybe they couldn't afford to get new jersey. Maybe they're our hand-me-downs. I never thought about that. So that's my preference. I would love to go back to that, but not my thing.
And then the second part of the question is, did you ever get your hockey romance book out, or did you get to check one out yet and read it?
I mean, the one I had on the table next to me for a couple of shows.
Did you get to give that a good read?
I'm not a big reader, so John had. I think that our former guy, that Anderson guy, I think he read a couple lines in it for me or something like that. So, but no, I'm the last guy that should be talking about any kind of romance.
All right. This is from Chlorotis. Has Luds ever been to Road America at Elkhart Lake for a race? If so, how was it?
I was at Elkhart race back when we were in Minnesota, but there was a Harley event there. And so there was a little drag racing going on for that day. That's the only time I've ever been there. I actually lived on that side. I was only 45 minutes from there.
Okay, cool. And then last one here from Discord is Luds. Can you please get Hatcher and Chambers on the show?
Oh, that would be a good pair. Those are Bundy and Hatch are good buddies too. So that's good. I just talked to Bundy, that Chambers, by the way. I talked to Bundy about a month ago. We've had Hatch on. I don't know. Have we had Hatch on this show?
No.
Oh, okay. I had Hatch on the other one that I was doing. Hatch came on. We did one when we had the Big Hearts tournament here. So when Hatch comes in town, we got to make sure we get him in the studio. But it's probably not until it's probably not till what, January? No. When did I remember? November or December? November, I think it is. When if he comes back and plays in that. So yeah, they'd be a good pair. That would kind of be like, it'd be tough telling stories there between those two also.
Did they hit the censor button just for the entire show? Yeah. All right. There is one question for Sam, so I will answer that before we get to a few from Twitter for you. Question for Sam. This is from I Love Misty. What was your memory of the moment when Jason Arnott broke the heart of Stars fans everywhere in 2000? So that is, I don't have a ton of memory from that because I was 8 years old, but I do know for sure that about 1 to 2 years later, I started watching the Devils and the Stars VHS tapes that came out, the whole Stanley Cup documentaries that you guys did. The Nothing Else Matters, I think, was the one for you. And the Devils one, like Second Heaven or something like that was the name of it. I used to watch those things on repeat. And once I started liking the Stars, I'd watch that Devils one. I just fast forwarded to that Stanley Cup final, watched Eddie and everyone go crazy. But I'll never forget that play. You see it develop. You see the puck in the corner. And you see Arnott just rolling down the slot all alone. I think Eddie tries to stack the pads, just so close to the repeat. But I know that Devils team was good. That was a tough team to beat. So that's my memories of that one. So let's get as many of these Twitter ones. Let's just rattle off.
Sam, Eddie Belfour was Jake Ottinger in this series in the playoffs this year. Eddie, if it wasn't for Eddie, they would not have been.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was unstoppable. All right, let's rattle these off. Some quick answers here. We have Robot on Twitter. Luds, I feel like your patented hit check into the boards could destroy an oncoming forward as a lost art. Can it be revived and can it be taught? Does it have a place in today's game?
It does, but you have to be the right kind of defenseman. I think the defending now is more stick on puck and trying to take the puck away from them than that physical side of things. There's still a couple guys that could get away with it.
All right, and then from Clarax Barton, where in the lineup does Wyatt Johnston play next season? What's the best use of his skill set and the way to maximize the money for the Stars to put in that contract?
Well, I mean, Wyatt's going to play in the middle of the ice, I believe. That's what, I think they feel that there's your 1, 2, 3. I don't know. We'll see if he gets second line minutes or is he going to stay on the third line. I could see where maybe he ends up on the second line, but they got to find someone that can play on the left side. First off, they got to find a left winger somewhere.
You do. And speaking of that, Rod Norton says if the Stars lose their only pure shooter, aka their left winger, Jason Robertson, and they're left with a bunch of pass first players like Matt Duchene, how do we score enough goals? That's obviously a what if, but if they were to lose Jason Robertson, or even if they still have him, can they score enough goals?
If they're going to lose Robo, do you think it would be now or during the season? Let me ask you that.
I think from what I'm hearing, it sounds like sometime in July, they're going to get a much clearer picture on what his number is going to look like. And so I think if they are going to make a trade, it's before the season. If it happens.
The thing is I don't know what other guy is out there that can bring you 40 goals. You're not getting Jordan. I don't know if you can get Army to flip Jordan Kyrou. If you want to get Kyrou in here, but and Jim and Army, they're pretty good buddies, but I don't know if they would. I don't know. I honestly don't know what player can replace Robo's scoring ability, and so we're talking about a guy. You're giving up a guy that's a 35 goal scorer. They're not just hanging from trees out there.
Yeah, this one's from Julian. We'll try to get a few more here. With the addition of Neil Graham and our roster still having openings at the moment, are there any prospects you guys think can be called up to step up for the team? Love the show, and you guys are the best. This one, that's for you
to answer.
Yeah, it's super quick. We talked about it a bunch. Ritz Kovian's a name we're definitely going to look at. He should have a chance this year. And then I think Huru is another one. Blumel obviously would have been the big one if he was still around, but he signed with Boston. So definitely some options there, especially with the money being as tight as it is. All right, from Seth Turner, is there a chance this team wanted to become physical and get retribution for the slash that injured Rope? And Pete said no. Did he lose the room at that point, or did the team as a whole understand they couldn't match the Oilers' physicality? I like that question.
I don't think that was ever asked. Can we go get him? I don't think that was. That's not. They don't ask that question. You just go and do it if you're going to do it. It wasn't like Pete didn't say no. Pete made that comment, I think, and the game was still in reach. Yeah, but then 10 minutes later, it wasn't still in reach, and then the next game it wasn't either. So that's where, But again, listen, I'm not going to blame that all on Pete. Sometimes they all feel that way. Maybe it's coming from upstairs too. There was a long time here. I've heard the line. Our tough guy is going to be our power play. No, I don't know. That's for the first 82 games.
Yeah, it didn't work. All right, let's hit one more here since we are running out of time. And any of these we don't get, we will carry over for next time. Don't worry, guys. This one's from PJ Washington Muse. Luds, where does Jamie Benn rank on your list of all-time Dallas Stars?
Jamie's in my top 10. I don't know how he's not. I mean, and you take the whole career, right? Jamie, where would you put Brendan Morrow? Where would you put Darian Hatcher? Jamie Benn is one of those guys. I mean, just different. Jamie went from one era and then kind of get into this other one. So, but Jamie's been. I compare him to a Brendan quite a bit, or maybe I should compare Brendan to Jamie. And I felt that Brendan did that kind of stuff, and he probably didn't need to because he wasn't as big as Jamie, and it may have taken a couple of years off of Brendan's career.
Yeah, and do you think before we sign off here, Jamie Benn wins the Stanley Cup? Does he jump up close to the top of that list?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be in the top 5. Yeah, if that's where he wants to be. Jamie could care less where he's in our rankings right now. He just wants to ring to put on his finger.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we will carry over the rest of the Twitter questions for next time, but this has been fun. This is the first double segment of Luddy's Damn Discord. The first time doing a show from an airport. It's the third time Sam and Luds did it together. It was chaotic, but it was fun. So thanks for joining.
But you're the second person to do it from an airport. I'm the first one to do it. And I did it in the kiddies playground.
Oh, I forgot about that. I totally forgot about that.
I was sitting on a little kiddie picnic bench with a mom changing a diaper behind me.
That one is better than this one. So I give you the credit for that. But thanks for everyone for submitting your questions and tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. I will not be here, but Owen, I believe it'll be Owen, Luds, and Sean. And I think that show, I'll have to check.
I'll be here again.
I believe it is a 1:00 show tomorrow such time. So thanks for tuning in. We will see you guys tomorrow and have a great day.
We all silly like the mayor.